All right, so we have to me the legend Amar'e Stoudemire. I remember watching you play many days, and you're not that much older than me, but I just respect game. And so we have Amar'e Stoudemire on there, and I want to just start out because I've been talking a lot about entrepreneurs and athletes and just finding your own path. And we both have something in common where I played overseas in Israel for 2 seasons. I played for Maccabi Ashdod and what is it, Ramah Hasharon. Who
No,
did you play for overseas?
yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
Who did
for
you play
sure.
for?
I played for Hapoel Yerushalayim and I played for Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Okay. So you played for the big boys, okay? But while you were there in 2018, you must have been feeling good about the mother country because you launched a kosher. You launched a wine, and it was Stoudemire Cellars. Can you just tell me about how that came about? What made you want to get into the wine business?
Yeah, I was, you know what, I traveled the world a lot doing wine tasting, right? So I did that for like 2 years. And then I moved to New York and I had these wine tasting at my rooftop in New York. And the guy that brought the wine by was a friend of mine, but he was mentioning to me like I should start my own wine company. And so I was like, all right, cool, let's think about it. But I met a winery out in Israel, and we had conversations about it, and that's kind of how it started. We just kind of took it from there.
So you just started from scratch, never really had a background in anything like that. And how involved were you in like the creative process? Did you kind of were you hands on, or did you just say, hey, I like this type and y'all have at it?
No, I was hands on. I was completely hands on. Like I went through all the different juices. I tasted every blend. I had my guy from Arizona create the labels for me. And the labels took about 6 months to get the label figured out. It took about 4 months to find the
And
right
just six
juice.
months just for the design of the label, I'm trying to put it in picture because I have a lot of entrepreneurs on here. So people that are creating things, I like to explain to them the process. It's not like this. You don't just say you want a wine and you got a wine. It took you 6 months to create the label. What was that like?
Yeah, so I had to figure out exactly what I wanted, like what style. So I wanted something that was for the Israeli wine. It's my first collection. I wanted something that was like timeless and something that was like royal. So I figured out I wanted something. When I created the wine, the label, we went through a lot of different, spectrums of what we were thinking, and we narrowed down to about a good 10 solid ideas. And I went into like this design mode from there and figured it out.
Mm. Dang, that's crazy. And so once you finally had the wine that you liked and everything was right, the labels, what was it like now being on the other side of things in a sense of you're an entrepreneur? How did you get it? Like, how did you market it? How are you going to get it out there? There's a lot of different wines. What makes yours different?
Well, the start of my wines is a kosher wine, right? So it's always great for the festivities, for the holidays, family affairs, and have a nice, clean, healthy wine to drink. Um, and so that's one differentiator. And then the other one is there's not a lot of Israeli wines that are popular. And so I think this is one that a lot of people are gravitating to because it's a popular kosher Israeli wine, and I'm the only African American kosher winemaker in the world, so that I want to really tap into that
Wow.
space and kind of change the narrative on that side.
Wow. Okay. So, and this isn't that's pretty lit that you're one of the only ones out there. This isn't your first off court venture, though, because if I do recall, you had a record label, a clothing line, you've acted, I mean, children's books. Where did that bug come from that you didn't want to just be an athlete? You wanted to be more?
Well, I mean, I always had like an entrepreneur mind, right? I grew up like with a leadership mindset, wanted to kind of do something different and just be who I am. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
I think when I got into the NBA, being me just manifested along the way. And a lot of these opportunities came my way because it was just a passion of mine that just gravitated to me. And I was able to take advantage of it.
I love that. And so you talked about the NBA. I mean, you played for the Phoenix Suns, the New York Knicks, the Dallas Mavs, Miami Heat before retiring. But now you're on the other side and on the coaching seat with the Brooklyn Nets. Now, we all know the Brooklyn Nets are legit this year. Can you just talk about what it's like to go from player to now you went to player development and now coaching?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it was a little bit different for me because I just played last year. I won a championship
Yeah.
over last year. I got the Finals MVP, so I was still technically in player mode when I got this job, and so I had to somewhat shift my whole mentality from like being a player to coaching, and it took some time for me to get that understanding down because I felt, I feel like I'm in great shape and I want to continue to play, but now being able to give over my expertise, what I'm saying, to the players, I'm finding a lot of gratification from that.
So do you work out any still with them? Like, do you get out there in the workout and the drills or anything like that? I mean, since you're in great shape.
Yeah, we get active. So we have a group, a stay ready group. So we always keep them ready. So when it's time to play, what I'm saying, I'm always there, suited up. And then, and then when the guys want to get extra runs in, I'm always there to, what I'm saying, to jump in there. So I'm always ready to get down.
Oh, I like that. The Stay Ready group. I'm about to adopt that. And so talk about your group. I mean, there's a lot of people that are looking at the Brooklyn Nets. You know, I cover the Atlanta Hawks here, the broadcast team. I cover them every game. And we're in the East, and you guys, along with the 76ers, are looking like the teams to beat. Can you just talk about y'all season and how it developed and where y'all are?
Yeah, I think the coaching staff, with Nash and Jock Vaughn and Mike D'Antoni, those guys put together a hell of a game plan. They sit down and drop all the ins and outs, the X and O's, and they put together an entire game plan. And so for me, I'm like a fly on the wall kind of guy. Like I'm learning so much about the front office, coaching, analytics. I'm just soaking it all up to see where my career is going to go in the future, right? In a learning stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, with the team that we have a solid team. We was able to manage with a few ups and downs with injuries, retirements, and so forth. But we still was able to keep the guys in good shape, and we still got the number one seed in the East so far.
Yeah, and you talked about it like because a lot of people like for me, I started out in broadcasting. I was doing the color commentating, but then when I had a taste of in studio, I realized, dang, I like in studio more. Is there something that you're leaning towards more that you can see? Like I gravitate towards the analytics, or I like being the player development guy. Is there something that you're leaning towards more when it comes to that coaching space?
Yeah, I'm leaning more toward the front office space, learning more about that world and figuring out how that works. That takes more of a learning curve than coaching, right? Coaching for me will become
Yep.
easy because I played so many years, but the front office space needs a lot more learning. So I'm leaning toward that space a little bit more.
And I talk about this a lot because I'm a player turned exec. And so a lot of times people don't see athletes in that space. We play the game all of our lives. We've gave our blood, sweat, and tears to it. And then people don't see us as being that high management role. Can you just, I always tell people, I think that should be the natural progression, but can you talk about what it's like to one, work for a former athlete and a Steve Nash and what that's like, that dynamic, like when you build a team atmosphere and what that can do in a management role? Like a lot of people would say, you might not be qualified because you haven't done X amount of years in corporate. But why would you think you are qualified?
Well, I think, from a coaching standpoint, obviously there's a learning curve, right? How to break down
Yeah.
film, how to articulate your message to the players, how to manage talent, how to manage emotions within the players, how to draw up plays, X and O, and get the strategy figured out. There's also learning within that, but for a lot of us players, we played before, so we know the game, right? You play the game, you're on the court, you're figuring the game out on the court, like you're like a coach out there on the court. So that transition over into coaching easier. So I think front office work requires education, requires you to understand how to break down numbers and figure out how certain scenarios can work with your team. So I think both coaching and front office require a learning curve.
No, I agree. And so, what are your thoughts on just the truncated, shortened season and then the play in game? I know you guys don't have to worry about it, but it's been a hot topic in the NBA in a sense of some people love the play in game because it gives teams the opportunity to have that one shot chance to get in. But then some people don't like it because the season has already been so condensed. Do you have opinion? What are your stance on that?
I haven't thought about that much. I think for me, I played in an era where we played the regular playoffs. You make the HC, you in. But that has changed now. I think it's added some excitement to the game. You know, people, you know, it's like it's more excitement, right? It's a win or go home moment. So it's like it creates that March Madness kind of atmosphere to the
Yeah.
NBA. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah. So, okay, you talked about something. So, I'm used to the same thing as well. We have a certain way that we go about sports in America. And we saw you played overseas, so you understand how it works where teams can be in the Premier League one year, and if they're the bottom team, they can fall out. Kind of like to what that's kind of what all of Europe does. But they have a lot of different ways in doing things. What's something that like how Europe sports function that you like that maybe you think would be cool if America adopted it? Is there anything there?
Yeah, you know, I think you know, I just think that the atmosphere of like playing over Europe is uh, it's intriguing because for us, we travel to remote countries. We travel to Athens, Madrid, travel around the world. So we experience this, you know, this European vibe. I think the NBA has a touch of that. Um, but if I was to take something from like Europe to the NBA, you know, I would just say like, you know, just the creativity from the bigs. The bigs are like very creative and very
Yeah.
versatile, and they're able to put the ball on the floor. And the traveling call in Europe is difficult, right? Because in the NBA,
Oh yeah.
you kind of take that quick first step, but in Europe, you got to put the ball down first. You know, and so as a player, it allows you to develop your handles and certain skills. That for me, it helped my game. I improved as I got older overseas. I was getting better and better and better because of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you became the Israeli player of the year in what was it, 2019, I believe, in their Premier League. But you're starting to see that in the NBA more where the bigs basically, I mean, look at Jokic. Joel Embiid has that style of play that you're talking about. It's starting to get highlighted more. And speaking of those couple players, I'm asking you a couple quick hitters. Who do you think right now would be your MVP this season?
Ooh, right now,
Right now, like if you had to just decide right now.
if I just had to decide an MVP right now, this
I
moment,
mean, we're only about 6 games left from the regular season being over anyway, so it's pretty much decided anyway.
yeah, but if I had to choose, I'm choosing Steph Curry.
Okay, why though? Because see, I like that because it's not the full year since he started cooking, and boy did he cook. But why do you think Steph Curry MVP?
I don't think there's a player in the game right now outside of, you know, you have Kevin, you have Kai, you have James, right, with the Nets. You have LeBron, obviously. You have great players in the league. But I haven't seen a year like this where, you know, a player goes on that type of tear easily. Like his numbers that he's putting up is incredible, and his team, and he's undermanned, and he's trying to hold it down for his team. I think what I'm seeing from Steph Curry, to me, I would give him the MVP vote at this moment.
I agree. I mean, he 74 threes in the month of April, something ridiculous like that that it just doesn't make sense. Like, are you human? Who you got for your defensive player of the year?
Defensive Player of the Year. Um, Defensive Player of the Year. Man,
Just throw some names out there. People are saying Rudy Gobert, Ben Simmons, Clint Capella, just to throw some names out there. But you might have somebody else. I don't know, but
I mean, okay, you can always go with Gobert, right? He's a game changer in the paint.
yeah.
He's just blocking shots and changing a lot of shots. He may not get a lot of blocks like, you know, he can, you know, when guys drive to the basket and they change the shot, that's all with a block shot. Like you alter the
No,
shot.
that's an alter shot counts. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So he has a lot of that. So I think Rudy could be bringing home a second trophy.
Okay. That's interesting because a lot of times, like, is it harder for a guard to be defensive player of the year just by how they break down the stats? Is it hard? Like, I always say, like, for a guard to be defensive player of the year, you have to be extraordinary because a post player could average 3 blocks and get the rebounds. Is that like, I know you're a post player and I'm a guard, so we're talking from two different ends, but is it easier for a post player to get defensive player of the year if you just look through the years who's gotten it?
Yeah, I think so. I think because the two stats that stand out the most are the steals or blocks, right? And
Yep.
so if you have an extraordinary guard who's locking down and has a lot of steals, then the guard can for sure get the MVP, the most defensive player of the year award. But if you have a big who's blocking shots every night and controlling the paint, making it hard for teams to score, you know, in the paint, that's very valuable.
Yep.
So I think that's why a lot of the bigs end up with the Defensive Player of the Year award.
Okay, last question. Y'all getting the championship or not? I mean, I know you have to say you are, but tell me why. I know. Tell me why the Brooklyn Nets will win the championship this year then.
I mean, nothing's for certain, right? You know, you got to work at it. You got to climb that ladder. But I think because we're so versatile, and if everyone's healthy and you know in full strength, we have a strong bench. We have veteran guys who know what it takes to win, and so we got guys that are also hungry to win more. I think those qualities are going to help us go over the hump.
Listen, Amar'e Stoudemire, I thank you, the legend off the court and on the court. I thank you for hopping on here right quick and joining me for Remotely Renee. And I'm still waiting on my wine. I know y'all are sold out. So just to let people know, Stoudemire wines be sold out. That's a good sign for y'all, but I'm still waiting on my wine.
I got you. Don't worry. I'll take care of you. Don't worry.